What's good, YouTube? You're back on S Motorsports. Today, we got a table full of goodies. That's right, guys, we got a table full of QA1 parts. If you missed the last video, it was an unboxing of all the parts that I got. I want to, again, give a huge shout out to QA1 for sponsoring me on this build. And right now, I got the rear parts laid out on the table, as that's what I'm going to tackle first. And then we'll do the front suspension stuff in a different video. But as you can see, I got all of the rear suspension components. And I just, again, want to go over very quickly on what I all got. So you can see I did assemble one already, and I will go over how to assemble that. It was honestly very easy. One of the rear shocks, I got the double adjustable shocks with the 200-pound springs in the Rear Pro Coilover kit. We also got a rear torque arm, and it's adjustable, so I can adjust the pinion angle on my car, which it desperately needs. This is the other shock here, some hardware kit. Basically all the hardware is included with all of these parts. The only thing that I did have to buy that I wanted to buy was an additional rear torque arm hardware kit, as they don't supply hardware for the torque arm, and I didn't want to reuse my stock bolts, so I did have to purchase that separately. Then we got the rear lower control arms, and these things, I mean, I am actually really impressed with these lower control arms. They look really nice, super beefy. So we'll have to do some comparison when I get the old ones off. I do have also, with the coilovers, I forgot to mention the bearing kit. I did get their bearing kit that goes underneath the spring here, so you can adjust it more easily. And then this is one of the 200-pound springs for the coilovers. And then obviously we got the rear sway bar as well, which the hardware kit is right here. That has all the bracketry and everything to mount that. So yeah, if you want to know more in detail, make sure to check out the unboxing video, as I maybe go in a little bit more detail on that. But yeah, it's quite the parts. And I mean, again, I will say I am very impressed with the quality of all of these parts. Like this torque arm, this thing is hefty. This thing means business. The same with those lower control arms. Everything, the paint looks very nice. Looks like very good quality. These shocks, again, I've tested them out just a little bit. And man, they definitely are going to be able to output some force, where we'll show you on the current rear shocks. Granted, they're old, but not very many miles on them. They weren't doing nothing. These things actually are going to control the springs and control the car a lot better. So I am super excited to really test this out and dial these shocks in with both the compression and rebound. I have full control over all of that. So that's pretty cool, as I do like to tinker with all that stuff. You know, obviously tuning and suspension tuning, all that stuff. I think that will be a blast. So my first plan here to start out is to just kind of get the car disassembled. I do have to install some rear lower control arm relocation brackets. I didn't get those from QA1 only because I already had different rear lower control arm relocation brackets. So I'm going to work on getting those installed first, as yeah, we need to do that first. I need to do a little bit of welding there, get those installed, and then we can start putting on the good parts. So yeah, super excited. So let's get to start disassembling the Trans Am in the rear.
Steve's doing donuts apparently. Hey, can you keep it down out there? Jeez! All right, now that we were so rudely interrupted by Steve out there doing donuts, as we're currently getting a snowstorm, basically the springs just fell right out because they're too short, and yeah, so they literally just fell out. So I took those out, but basically we got, this is what we got here. It's maybe a little hard to see. I got to get a light here, but I'm gonna just start disassembling, take the sway bar out, and obviously I got to leave some of the lower control arms in and stuff. I'm not taking everything out, otherwise the axle will just fall right out. But I'll set you up on a time lapse here, and I think we'll just get it disassembled. All of this stuff I'm gonna leave in because this is my Panhard bar relocation kit, and I'll put a link up here as you need that if you want to run a bigger exhaust. Obviously I got the 4-inch exhaust going on, but if you want to run duals, you need this relocation kit that moves that upper Panhard bar down lower, and then this drops this Panhard bar lower. And I actually just kept this Panhard bar. I did not get one from QA1 just because it's all the same color and everything, and I could have got a QA1 one, but I just wanted this all to match. But we will get the rest of the stuff all QA1-ized. So I'll set you up, and let's disassemble this stuff.
Alright guys, quick little update. We got the driver's side torn down, and now I need to start working on marking out and putting in that lower control arm relocation bracket. I'm probably done for today as we are getting a snowstorm and I want to bust out the snowmobile, so I'm going to be doing that. Granted, it's kind of hard to walk away from this, but my kids want to go snowmobiling, so I'm going to do that. But I wanted to show you a quick update on basically comparing some of the parts that I took off. And you'll see right off the bat, so this is the brand that I had. Honestly, it wasn't a bad piece, but then when you compare it to this, it's like night and day difference. I mean, look at how this is. This is so much beefier, and oh my God, this is gonna be good. So super excited about that. And then right away when I took the sway bar off, this is the rear sway bar. Look at how puny that is. That's crazy. So I measured it. This is 0.9 inches, and this is 1 1/4, or not 1 1/4, 1 1/8 for the rear sway bar. And honestly, this car was a WS6 car, so it had the handling package. So it has the larger, very large front sway bar, but this rear sway bar is way bigger. And then I did want to do a quick test of the shocks, and I'll bring you in a little closer so we can look at that a little bit better. All right, so these are the shocks that I had on the car. And like I said, they are a little bit older shocks. Honestly, they're probably a solid, 18 years old or something like that, 17 years old. But honestly, I don't really put that many miles, or haven't in the past, on the Trans Am. So mileage-wise, not a lot. They still have gas in them. But I just kind of wanted to show, I mean, look at that. Look at how easily I compress that. So, they do have gas, so they can't be completely shot. But, yeah, I mean, look at that. That's crazy. So let's bust out a QA1 and see what we can do with the dials and see how it compares. So one thing with the QA1 shocks, they don't have a gas charge in them, so they don't extend on themselves, but that's okay. So let's put something nice down so we don't wreck it. And so let's see. Looks like these were already bottomed out. So this is max soft. So that's pretty soft. That's probably, that is definitely softer than that. So let's go up 3 clicks on compression, 3 clicks on rebound. Rebound's getting a little harder. So let's do 3 more. 6 on compression, 6 on rebound. Basically, that's where they tell you to be at for a comfy, nice handling ride. And now it's definitely, and look at that rebound. I can't even, and the rebound's already basically where I can't extend it. That's crazy. And that's only 6 clicks in, and I have 18 clicks of adjustment. So, I mean, it's going to be a night and day difference. So let's just go back 2 on the rebound. There, I can at least pull it out. Back to 3. Oh, that's 8. That's getting a lot harder. So yeah, a lot of adjustability that we're gonna have with these shocks to really dial in the ride exactly how we want it. And I'm no shock expert, but if people have experience with these, maybe what they found, obviously QA1 provides their recommendations, which is really nice. But I think, you know, from some other shock brands and stuff like that, you know, they basically have more rebound than compression. So we'll see how that works. I'll probably do something maybe similar. But that's kind of what QA1's specs kind of suggest, that it has a little bit more rebound than compression. But obviously, we'll just dial it in when we start driving around.
All right, guys, we got the wheels and everything off. And I'm gonna start with welding in these control arm relocation brackets. Like I said, I got this off. This is gonna fit up here like so. This one is a bolt-in style, which I'm going to weld in. So it goes up like that. And then I'm gonna actually just cut it off like right here and then weld it, because I can't have that piece hanging over, as that's not gonna work with the QA1 stuff. But I wanted to do that anyways. I wanted to cut it there and then weld it to the main piece. So I'm going to grind all of the paint off that I need to, and then we'll work on welding this one up, and then we'll switch to the other side. But we'll probably have to put a control arm back on before we do that, so the axle doesn't move and stuff. But let's first get this welded in. All right, guys, we got the relocation bracket on. The welds are not pretty, but yeah, we hit her with some black paint and it'll hold. As you can see, I cut off the bracket here and just welded it, and you know, that's definitely going to help keep that from rotating a lot more by doing that. So that is still drying. We are going to get the control arm prepped and ready to go, as we need to put one in on this side as we work on the other side so the axle doesn't want to move around on us. So let's get the control arm prepped. A couple things I wanted to note. I did reach out to QA1 Techline, as I noticed that these control arms were slightly different than what they had on their website. As you can see, there's no grease zert fitting, and by looking at it, I knew they had just made an update, and it sounds like it's definitely for the better. So what it is it's like a multi-durometer bushing here. It sounds like it's polyurethane on the outer side, and then maybe an inner rubber bushing. And then if I pop this guy out, it's going to be really hard to see, but it's actually like a fibrous bushing in there. So that would allow it to rotate. But I believe this part is rubber. This inner part is like a fiber sleeve, basically, and then the outside is polyurethane. So it sounds like basically this is a maintenance-free bushing then. No grease needed on it. So yeah, sounds like that is an upgrade from what they previously had, but it does not show that on their website. So I just wanted to note that as well, that it looks a little different. So we'll definitely see how these rotate once they get in. But yeah, so basically we're going to take 2 of these sleeve bushings and put them in the eyelid here, and then get a bolt gone through. They do include the hardware kit. I'm actually not even going to open that up because I already have plenty of hardware from the relocation bracket kit, and these are actually 10.9 versus what QA1 provides is 8.8. Granted, I'm sure that is perfectly fine. All of these are in shear, basically, but I might as well use the 10.9, right? So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Let's get her all prepped. So this is what it's going to look like. This end is actually going to go on the chassis side, and this end is actually going to go on the axle side. So I just got the bolts slid through. I got the eyelets in there. So right now I'm honestly just waiting for the paint to dry so I don't smear it all up when I'm trying to put it in. All right, so while we're waiting, I am going to assemble one of the shocks here while we're waiting for the paint to dry. So again, I already assembled one. It's pretty straightforward. We have the top piece, we have the bottom collar, and this is, again, a little different than I think the picture even on their website. It's only this collar, and then it's got a locking nut basically instead of, there's multiple ones you can put in here, but there's a locking nut instead of having 2 collars as a lock washer. And we are going to set this one aside because we actually got the bearing kit here, because that helps adjustment of ride height easier as it spins easier. So basically we have this set at full soft because that's what you need to do for assembly, and then plus putting it in the car, that's going to make it easier if it's at full soft. So when you're trying to compress it, you're not fighting the shock. So you can always turn it up once it's in the car pretty easily. All right, so the first thing you do is thread this guy on. So we are going to put some anti-seize on there, as that's what you're supposed to do. And kind of going right in the center area. Spring bottom collar on. So basically what you have to do, which it kind of makes a mess, is you take your bearing kit, which basically you got a roller bearing here, and you got 2 flat washers, and basically all you're doing is creating a sandwich with the roller bearing, and then that helps it rotate as you're trying to rotate the collar to change ride height. So basically you coat both sides of the washers, and then that obviously gets into the bearing. That's enough anyways. Put that on, and then you put the spring. So I'll coat all that now. I'm going to put some gloves on though.
I will align the opening basically away from the spring, and now you can go back up. There, and now you can feel that it tightened up. And honestly, I can even turn it with just my hands, at least for the first little bit. And I think part of that is just due to that bearing. Makes it really easy to spin. And honestly, that's pretty much it for assembling a shock. I mean, now we got a fully assembled shock here, and she'll be ready to go in the car here soon. So let's get the everything buttoned up on the control arm so we can get to the fun stuff.
All right, let's get this assembled. Like I said, this basically rod end side is going to go toward the body side. So we will put that on first here. Oh, and I did check the length of these as well, and they are supposed to be 19¼ inches, and this was basically 19¼ inches. And I will check basically the thrust angle of the axle at some point as well, to make sure that we're good. And this is gonna be a tight fit, I think, which they said it might be. There, we got her to slide in pretty good. There we go. Just needed a little help. All right, now we got to torque this up. So since I am using actually UMI subframe connectors, which I already had prior, otherwise I probably would have got the QA1 subframe connectors. It says in their directions that you're supposed to torque this bolt to 72 foot-pounds to basically kind of compress this subframe connector. And then the back, I think it should be 65 foot-pounds. Okay guys, I did have to hook up a ratchet strap just to pull the axle forward a little bit, and I measured my old control arms as well, and I had my old one set at 19½. So I loosened these two jam nuts. As you can see, they're still loose. I got to tighten them up. I lengthened this by 1/4 inch, which is still within QA1's range. And I know I needed to set it the same because my drive shaft and everything, that moves the axle back further, and otherwise I could, run into an issue with my drive shaft. And plus the way that I have my exhaust set up, it wants the axle back just a little bit further to clear the pipe going over the axle. So 1/4 inch, it's not really a big deal, but I did have to change that. So now I got the bolt in, I will torque that up, and we will move on to the other side then. And that is to 65 foot-pounds. All right guys, so we got one side tidied up with the control arm and the relocation bracket. I'm gonna knock out the other side quick here, and then we'll jump to getting actually more parts installed. I mean, that control arm looks pretty beefy compared to the last one. So that looks really good. It seems like it moves really freely as well, which is awesome. But I want to get to, putting the good parts on, the shocks and the torque arm and the sway bar, all that fun stuff. So I'm going to knock out the other side quick, and we'll jump to the fun part.
Okay, now that we got the lower control arms and the lower control arm relocation brackets all installed, now we can move on to the fun stuff. And we can install these sweet QA1 coilover shocks, as they look pretty, and I can't wait. I kind of just threw on the brackets. I haven't torqued anything down yet, but you do have to pay attention on the orientation of which one goes on which side, and it does tell you that in the instructions. But first, before we can really throw these in, we've got to put this bracket on, and we have to drill a hole in the shock mount. So I'm gonna, you basically use this as a template. You install the lower bolt, and then you mark the hole where this needs to be, drill it out, and then you can install this bracket and the shock. So that's what we're gonna do next, is get this hole drilled so we can get these shocks installed.
Okay, I got the hole drilled in there, and now I'm going to torque this lower bracket first, as you can't have the other bracket on there, otherwise you can't get at that bolt with a socket, so you have to do this one first separately. And it says this one actually gets torqued to 104 foot-pounds, which is quite a bit. And then the upper 3/8 one is 31 foot-pounds. So that's what we'll do. We'll get them installed. Okay, now that we got the little bracket like this installed on the driver's side, we got to finish getting ready the coilover to go in. Like I said, I haven't torqued these yet, so I got to torque them. But you got to make sure that this is the correct one. So reference the directions. And yeah, we're basically ready to throw this in, which is exciting. And let's see. So it's basically ready, except we just got to torque this nut. And that one, 75 foot-pounds it needs to get torqued to. Ugh. Okay, I had to put it on the floor and sit on it, kneel on it a little bit, so I could, otherwise it wants to rotate on you. But we are good to go now. There, perfect. All right, let's see. We got the other ones torqued up. Geez, we're ready to put this in. All right, I'm gonna take this bolt back out. Ooh, she's pinched a little bit now, of course, after torquing that stuff up. We are ready to put the shock in, or coilover. It's not a shock. All right. Let's see if I can see where this baby needs to go. Not even close. All right, come on. All right, I had to drill out the top hole a little bit as the sheet metal was off a little bit, but also make sure that this piece is the driver piece, but this actually faces to the rear, and I was screwing that up. So it wasn't fitting, but now it should. All right. There we go. Now it wants to go up. All right, we got this shock installed. I just torqued this lower bolt to 30 foot-pounds, and now I will torque the big nut on the inside here to 72 foot-pounds, and we'll move on to the other side. All right, guys, so I got the other side of the rear coilover installed, ready to go, and I actually got the whole suspension installed already, but the video is getting kind of long, so I wanted to cut it off. I did also pick myself up a nice QA1 hat, which is looking pretty good. So I'm super excited to test out this rear suspension. So I wanted to make sure that I didn't cut anything out, and I showed you guys exactly how this thing is installed and everything. So stay tuned for part 2, which is going to be the rear sway bar and the rear torque arm, as I had to do a few things to get that torque arm to fit properly, but everything is all installed and looking pretty good. So stay tuned until the next one, guys. Peace.